Let's start with a question: how often do we end our week feeling busy, yet uncertain about what we truly accomplished? We wake up Monday full of energy, dive into tasks, reply to messages, attend meetings. And by Friday, we're exhausted but not fulfilled. That's not a time problem, that's a direction problem. Planning your week is not about control, it's about clarity. When you plan, you're not just writing a list of things to do, you're defining why those things matter. You're drawing a line between your daily actions and your deeper goals. When you begin your week with a plan, you shift from reacting to leading. Every decision becomes intentional. You stop asking, "What should I do next?" and start asking, "Does this move me forward?" But here's the truth: no plan survives perfectly. Life changes, meetings shift, priorities evolve. That's not failure, that's flexibility. A great plan gives you the ability to adjust without losing your purpose. It's like having a compass. Even if you take a detour, you still know your direction, and something magical happens when you do this every week. You build momentum. You start seeing patterns, learning from mistakes, refining your priorities. Planning your week becomes less about managing time and more about mastering focus. So, as you walk into your next Monday, don't just start the week, design it. Don't just fill your schedule, fill it with meaning. Because when you plan your week with purpose, you don't just manage time, you lead your life. Planning your week begins not with a list, but with intention. Many people confuse activity with progress. They believe that being busy equals being productive. Yet, without a clear purpose, productivity becomes motion without meaning. Every email, every meeting, every errand consumes energy, but not every action contributes to what truly matters. The foundation of weekly planning lies in defining why you are doing what you are doing. Before you write down any task, you must understand its connection to your values, your goals, and your vision. Purpose gives direction to productivity. When your actions are guided by purpose, even small tasks feel significant. A phone call, a report, or a study session becomes part of something larger. Instead of simply completing work, you begin contributing to a meaningful outcome. For instance, a teacher preparing lessons is not just meeting deadlines, they are shaping understanding. A student organizing their week is not just finishing assignments, they are investing in their growth. The difference lies in perspective. Purpose transforms ordinary tasks into purposeful steps. Without purpose, productivity can easily turn into burnout. Many individuals plan their week by filling every available slot with work, thinking that a packed schedule equals effectiveness. However, this approach leads to exhaustion and confusion because the effort lacks direction. Purpose acts as a filter. It allows you to say no to what distracts you and yes to what aligns with your larger mission. When you know your purpose, you stop trying to do everything and focus on doing the right things. This selective productivity is what leads to real progress. Purpose also simplifies decision making. A week often brings unexpected demands, new requests, and competing priorities. When you plan without purpose, you spend time debating what deserves your attention. But when your purpose is clear, choices become easier. Every decision can be measured by a simple question: does this align with my purpose? If the answer is no, it can wait. If the answer is yes, it deserves your full attention. This clarity reduces stress and builds confidence, allowing you to move through the week with calm determination rather than reactive urgency. In education, purpose-driven planning transforms learning into intentional growth. A student who plans their week based on purpose does not simply divide time among subjects. They prioritize based on where improvement or curiosity is strongest. They understand that not every subject requires equal effort at every moment. Purpose helps them identify which skills will serve their long-term aspirations. In professional life, the same logic applies. A team leader who plans meetings and goals through the lens of purpose ensures that every agenda item contributes to collective progress, not just routine activity. Purpose also strengthens motivation. When plans are driven by external pressure, deadlines, grades, or expectations, they often collapse under fatigue. But when plans are guided by internal purpose, persistence increases. People endure challenges more easily when they believe their work has meaning. This is why purpose must come before productivity. Productivity answers the question, what am I doing? Purpose answers, why does it matter? The why sustains the what. It fuels consistency even when enthusiasm fades. Purpose-driven planning nurtures balance. Many assume that planning means rigid control, but when rooted in purpose, planning becomes an act of alignment. It helps you allocate time not only to work, but also to rest, relationships, and reflection areas that support your overall well-being. If your purpose includes growth, contribution, and health, your plan will reflect that by reserving time for learning, service, and recovery. A purpose-centered plan prevents the neglect of personal priorities because it sees productivity as more than output. It views it as holistic progress. In practical terms, beginning your weekly plan with purpose might look like this. Before scheduling, spend a few minutes identifying your top 3 priorities for the week. Ask yourself what outcomes will make the week meaningful. These priorities should connect with your broader goals, whether academic, professional, or personal. Once you establish them, structure your schedule around those anchors. This approach ensures that your time reflects your purpose instead of being consumed by distractions. Another important aspect is reflection. At the end of the week, purpose allows you to evaluate not just how much you did, but how aligned your actions were with your intentions. Reflection strengthens the connection between planning and learning. You recognize patterns, where you drifted, what energized you, what drained you, and use that awareness to plan the next week more intentionally. Purpose, therefore, transforms planning into a continuous cycle of growth rather than a repetitive routine. Purpose before productivity is about designing your week with meaning, not just efficiency. It's about ensuring that every goal, every meeting, every assignment connects to something you value deeply. Without purpose, planning is mechanical. With purpose, it becomes mindful. When you plan your week through the lens of why, you no longer chase time, you lead it. Each day begins not with pressure, but with clarity. Each task carries weight because it serves something bigger than itself. That is the difference between being busy and being truly effective. When you plan your week with clarity, you eliminate uncertainty and confusion before they have the chance to control your days. Clarity begins with understanding what matters most and why it matters. It is not about having every minute perfectly structured. It is about knowing the direction of your effort. When you have a clear plan, you stop guessing yourself and start acting with purpose. Each task you complete is no longer random but part of a out sequence leading you closer to meaningful results. Clarity, therefore, becomes the foundation of confidence. Confidence in planning comes from the absence of chaos. When you begin your week without a plan, your mind constantly struggles to prioritize. You wake up thinking about too many things at once: emails, meetings, deadlines, errands, and this mental clutter creates anxiety. A clear plan removes that noise. It allows your brain to focus on one task at a time, knowing that everything else already has its place in the week. You can move through your day calmly because you are not reacting. You are following a roadmap you already designed. This sense of structure is what transforms confusion into control. Clarity is also the bridge between intention and action. Many people have goals but fail to achieve them because their goals remain vague. For example, saying, "I want to be more productive," or "I want to improve my health," is a start, but it lacks clarity. A clear weekly plan translates these abstract intentions into specific, time-bound actions such as exercise for 30 minutes every morning, or complete one major work task before noon each day. Clarity turns ideas into measurable steps, and measurable steps build confidence because progress becomes visible. You are no longer hoping to improve, you are actively tracking it. In education, clarity in weekly planning gives students direction. When students know what to study, when to review, and how to allocate time for assignments, their anxiety decreases. They stop feeling overwhelmed by the volume of work and start focusing on manageable segments. This structure helps them perform better because their minds are organized. They understand exactly what to do next, which builds confidence in their ability to handle academic pressure. Similarly, professionals benefit from the same principle. A manager who outlines priorities for the week creates a focused team. Each member knows their role, their deliverables, and the desired outcomes. That clarity eliminates confusion, reduces unnecessary meetings, and builds trust across the team. Decision-making also becomes faster when clarity is present. Without a clear plan, people spend excessive time deciding what to do next or worrying about whether they are working on the right thing. This constant decision fatigue drains energy. A well-defined plan saves that energy because it provides pre-made decisions. You no longer ask, "What should I do now?" You already know. The simple act of deciding in advance brings emotional relief and strengthens self-trust. You start to believe in your ability to manage your time effectively, and that belief is the core of confidence. Clarity also protects focus. In a world filled with distractions, social media, notifications, unexpected requests, a clear plan acts as a boundary. It reminds you of your priorities when your attention is pulled elsewhere. When you clearly define what tasks are most important for the week, you can evaluate interruptions based on their relevance. You can confidently say no to distractions because you have already said yes to what matters. That confidence grows not from arrogance but from awareness. Knowing your path makes it easier to protect your progress. Psychologically, clarity reduces stress because it replaces uncertainty with structure. The human brain craves predictability. When you know what to expect, your mental energy is reserved for creative thinking and problem solving instead of constant worry. Planning your week with clarity gives your brain the stability it needs to perform at its best. You are not overwhelmed by the unknown, you are guided by a plan that makes the unknown manageable. This is why people who plan their weeks effectively often appear calm and confident. They are not necessarily working less. They are simply working with more direction. Clarity also enhances accountability. When your week is clearly outlined, you can measure progress objectively. You can see what was accomplished and what needs adjustment. This visibility helps you take ownership of your time. Instead of feeling like a victim of circumstances, you begin to recognize patterns, where you succeeded, where you procrastinated, and how to improve. Each week becomes an opportunity to refine your clarity further. The more clearly you plan, the more confident you become in your ability to shape your results. In practice, achieving clarity in weekly planning involves 3 steps: defining priorities, breaking them into actionable tasks, and scheduling them into specific time blocks. Priorities establish direction, tasks create movement, and time blocks ensure commitment. For example, rather than writing work on project, you might specify draft project introduction on Monday morning, review data on Wednesday afternoon. This level of clarity removes guesswork and helps you approach each day with certainty. Clarity and confidence are cyclical, one strengthens the other. As you gain clarity about your plans, your confidence in execution rises. As your confidence grows, you plan with even greater precision. This cycle builds momentum and consistency. Over time, you begin to trust your process because it repeatedly proves reliable. You no longer depend on motivation alone. You depend on clarity. Ultimately, clarity is the quiet strength behind confident action. It turns confusion into control, hesitation into progress, and chaos into calm. When you plan your week with clear priorities, specific actions, and intentional structure, you move through your days with certainty. Confidence does not come from knowing everything. It comes from knowing exactly what to do next. Planning your week is not about creating a flawless schedule. It is about designing a structure that supports progress while allowing space for change. Many people approach planning with the belief that perfection equals success, but perfection is fragile. The moment something unexpected happens, a meeting shifts, an emergency arises, or motivation dips, the entire plan collapses. Flexibility, on the other hand, is resilient. It allows you to adapt without losing your sense of direction. A flexible plan acknowledges that life is dynamic and that true productivity lies in adjusting effectively, not adhering rigidly. Flexibility begins with mindset. When you plan your week, you are not predicting the future. You are preparing for possibilities. The purpose of a plan is to guide, not to control. A flexible planner accepts that the unexpected will occur and builds space for it. This mindset reduces frustration because you no longer see interruptions as failures but as natural parts of the process. When your plan allows breathing room, you can handle change calmly instead of reacting with stress or guilt. Flexibility, therefore, is not weakness. It is strategic adaptability. Perfectionism in planning often leads to paralysis. People spend excessive time trying to make the perfect timetable, perfect task order, or perfect routine. In doing so, they delay action. The truth is, no plan can predict every variable. By aiming for perfection, you create unrealistic expectations and set yourself up for disappointment. A flexible approach values momentum over precision. It prioritizes progress and learning rather than flawless execution. You can always adjust the plan as you move forward, but you cannot correct what was never started. Flexibility keeps you in motion, while perfectionism keeps you stuck. Flexibility also protects emotional well-being. When you expect your plan to unfold exactly as designed, every deviation feels like failure. This mindset erodes motivation and confidence. When you embrace flexibility, you understand that deviations are opportunities for reassessment. A delayed task is not wasted time. It is information about what needs adjustment. Maybe the task required more time than expected, or was not as important as initially thought. Flexible planning turns these observations into feedback, helping you refine your future plans. Perfection seeks control, flexibility seeks understanding. In professional environments, flexibility strengthens productivity and teamwork. Teams that plan rigidly struggle when projects face sudden changes. Deadlines shift, resources vary, and priorities evolve. A flexible plan ensures that team members can reorganize without panic. It encourages communication and creative problem solving. For instance, if a project deliverable is delayed, a flexible leader does not dwell on blame, but focuses on redistributing tasks or adjusting timelines. This approach maintains momentum and preserves morale. Flexibility keeps collaboration dynamic and forward, focused. In education, flexibility is equally vital. Students often plan study schedules expecting every day to go smoothly, but real life includes unplanned assignments, fatigue, or unexpected events. A flexible weekly plan accounts for such realities. It might include buffer periods or lighter study sessions midweek to recover from workload peaks. This approach prevents burnout and fosters consistency. Flexibility does not mean avoiding discipline. It means practicing intelligent discipline, discipline that adapts. Flexibility also enhances creativity. A rigid plan leaves no room for new ideas or inspiration. When every minute is pre-decided, spontaneous thoughts feel like disruptions instead of opportunities. A flexible structure provides a balance. It organizes priorities while allowing freedom to explore unexpected insights. For example, a writer who blocks time for creative work but remains open to shifting ideas will often produce better results than one who forces inspiration to fit an inflexible outline. Flexibility gives creativity space to breathe. Another key aspect of flexibility is prioritization. A flexible plan is not random. It is guided by clear priorities. You must know what is essential so that when change occurs, you can rearrange your schedule without losing focus on what truly matters. Priorities act as anchors within flexibility. They prevent you from drifting aimlessly. When your plan is disrupted, you can quickly decide which tasks to move, which to shorten, and which to let go entirely. This balance between structure and adaptability ensures that you remain purposeful even amid uncertainty. Time management within flexibility involves understanding your energy patterns. Not every hour of the day holds equal value. A flexible plan respects natural rhythms by allowing adjustments based on energy levels. If you plan to complete an analytical task in the evening but find yourself mentally exhausted, flexibility allows you to swap it with a lighter task without guilt. You still make progress, but in a way that matches your capacity. Perfection would insist on sticking to the schedule regardless of efficiency, while flexibility prioritizes realistic execution. Flexibility also builds resilience. Each time you adapt your plan successfully, you strengthen your confidence in handling unpredictability. You realize that disruptions are manageable and that productivity does not depend on ideal conditions. This mindset transfers beyond planning. It shapes how you face challenges in general. Flexible individuals remain steady during change because they trust their ability to reorganize rather than resist. Over time, this adaptability becomes a powerful personal skill that enhances both professional and personal growth. Reflection is another important part of maintaining flexibility. At the end of each week, reviewing what went as planned and what did not helps you understand your adaptability. Did unexpected events derail progress, or did you adjust smoothly? Reflection turns flexibility into a learned skill rather than a reactionary habit. It teaches you how to anticipate recurring disruptions and plan for them next time. With practice, flexibility becomes proactive rather than reactive. You design your schedule knowing that change is inevitable and preparing accordingly. Flexibility over perfection means valuing adaptability more than control. It means understanding that a plan is a tool for guidance, not a rulebook for obedience. It allows you to respond intelligently to change, preserve progress, and maintain balance. Flexibility transforms planning from a rigid system into a living process, one that bends with reality yet never breaks. By allowing space for imperfection, you create a structure that supports both achievement and peace of mind. Consistency is the invisible force that transforms plans into progress. Planning your week is only effective when it is followed by consistent execution. A single productive day may bring satisfaction, but it is the accumulation of steady effort over time that produces lasting results. Momentum does not arise from intensity, it grows from repetition. When you plan your week and follow through with regularity, you begin to create a rhythm that carries you forward even when motivation fluctuates. Consistency turns disciplined action into habit, and habit sustains achievement. The human brain thrives on patterns. When you engage in consistent routines, your mind learns to expect certain behaviors at specific times, reducing the effort required to begin. This predictability is what builds momentum. For example, when you schedule focused work every morning, your brain eventually prepares itself for concentration at that hour without resistance. Each repetition strengthens neural pathways associated with productivity, making the act of starting easier. Over time, you rely less on willpower and more on structured routine. Planning your week ensures that this structure is intentional rather than accidental. Consistency also creates accountability. When you repeatedly plan and review your week, you establish a personal standard of reliability. You begin to trust yourself. This trust is essential for confidence and motivation. Every completed plan reinforces the belief that you can depend on your own commitment. This self-accountability encourages you to maintain momentum even when distractions arise. The cycle becomes self-reinforcing. The more consistent you are, The more confidence you build and the more confident you feel, the easier it becomes to remain consistent. In education, consistency separates hyper, forming students from those who struggle. It is not brilliance or last-minute effort that defines success, but the ability to maintain steady study habits week after week. A student who reviews lessons daily for short periods retains information more effectively than one who studies intensely only before exams. Weekly planning supports this consistency by setting clear study blocks, tracking progress, and balancing workload. The same principle applies to professionals. An employee who consistently organizes tasks, attends to priorities, and follows through on commitments gradually earns reliability and trust from colleagues. Consistency is not glamorous, but it is powerful. Momentum builds gradually but compounds exponentially. At first, the effects of consistent planning and execution may seem small. One completed task, one organized day, one improved routine. Yet over time, these small wins accumulate into substantial progress. This phenomenon mirrors the principle of compound growth. Tiny, repeated efforts generate massive results when sustained. Planning your week allows you to identify and repeat these small wins intentionally. Each completed week of steady progress becomes the foundation for the next, and soon the effort required to maintain momentum feels minimal compared to the rewards it produces. Consistency also stabilizes emotions. Many people experience fluctuations in motivation, days when they feel driven and days when they struggle to start. A consistent plan neutralizes these swings by creating external structure when internal motivation is low. When you know what needs to be done each day, you are less influenced by mood or circumstance. You act not because you feel like it, but because it is part of your rhythm. Over time, this discipline cultivates emotional balance. You begin to see productivity as a process rather than a feeling. In professional environments, consistency enhances credibility. Colleagues and leaders notice individuals who deliver results regularly rather than sporadically. A consistent performer may not always produce the most dramatic outcomes in the short term, but their dependability makes them invaluable in the long run. Weekly planning plays a critical role in maintaining this reliability. It helps professionals manage workload, avoid last-minute rushes, and maintain steady performance under pressure. Momentum in professional growth is sustained through the trust built by consistent delivery. Consistency also enables reflection and improvement. When your weekly routine is stable, it becomes easier to identify patterns, what works, what doesn't, and where adjustments are needed. Without consistency, feedback becomes unreliable because the conditions constantly change. But when your actions are steady, you can analyze progress accurately. This awareness allows you to refine your approach, improving efficiency and outcomes. Each week becomes both a continuation and a learning opportunity. The repetition does not lead to stagnation, it leads to mastery. Time management benefits greatly from consistency. When you repeatedly follow through on scheduled plans, you develop a realistic understanding of how long tasks truly take. This insight allows for more accurate future planning. Consistency reveals your strengths, your limits, and your natural working rhythms. You learn to allocate time wisely, reduce procrastination, and avoid overcommitment. Without consistent execution, planning remains theoretical, beautifully written but never tested. Only through steady application does a plan evolve into a reliable system. Consistency also plays a crucial role in motivation through momentum. Momentum reduces resistance to action. Once you are already moving, continuing becomes easier than stopping. This psychological effect explains why maintaining a habit feels smoother than restarting it after a break. Weekly planning provides the roadmap, but consistency is the engine. Even when progress feels slow, the very act of maintaining movement keeps energy alive. A pause plan requires effort to restart. A consistent plan sustains itself with minimal friction. Balance within consistency is important. Consistency does not mean rigidity or repetition without awareness. It means committing to steady action while remaining adaptable. A consistent routine that ignores fatigue or changing priorities eventually collapses. Momentum is built not by doing everything all the time, but by showing up repeatedly for what matters most. Weekly planning ensures that your consistency remains aligned with evolving goals rather than becoming mechanical habit. The connection between consistency and confidence is undeniable. Each time you follow through on your weekly plan, you reinforce your self-belief. You prove to yourself that discipline is possible and that your intentions hold value. This internal validation builds lasting motivation. Confidence then fuels further consistency, and the cycle continues upward. What begins as scheduled discipline transforms into a natural part of who you are. A person who follows through, improves steadily, and moves forward with direction. Consistency builds momentum by turning deliberate effort into sustained progress. It bridges the gap between goals and outcomes, ideas and results. When you plan your week and execute that plan regularly, you create motion that becomes self-perpetuating. Momentum born from consistency does not just carry you through one week. It carries you through growth, success, and mastery over time.